Hey loves, my name is Amber, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be taking a look at the November edition of the Down the Rabbit Hole book box. Down the Rabbit Hole is a woman-owned and operated subscription box service that runs out of New York City. And while this video is not monetarily sponsored, they did send me this box in order to review and feature on my channel. If anybody has any interest in checking the company out for themselves, new subscribers can get 10% off using code MyFirstBox10. But with all that ado, let's go ahead and pop it open. Looks like we already have quite the goodies. Quite the amount of goodies. Just stacked up, even some stuff that doesn't look like it's wrapped. But first, let's go ahead and take a look at their pamphlet and find out what book of the month it is. So for the November book box of Gods and Monsters, we have These Violent Delights by Micah Nemerever? I quite frankly have no idea how to pronounce this last name, but it looks like the book we have is called These Violent Delights, and it does have like the edging that's textured. I always find details like that fun. It definitely feels very old-timey to me, like I'm reading a vintage book. Alright, so every month the book box does give us a little pamphlet that gives us some author and book information, as well as chronicles how exactly the book box works, which I haven't gone into yet. This book box is one of my favorites conceptually because what they do is they don't just give you like bookish items to go along with your book. They actually leave sticky notes within the pages of the books that correspond with different numbers of the gifts in your box itself, and you have to open them as you're reading, and they directly pertain to the events of the book in some way, which is such a fun concept. It does drive me, as a very impatient person, a little bit nuts having to wait and like actively read the book to open the items, but it does so much to immerse yourself into the experience of reading, and it is so fun. So I am definitely very excited to see what we have for this book. Especially because another caveat of the box is that they focus on darker reads. So they're not necessarily ones that have the happily ever after that you're looking for. So definitely be prepared for that if you have any interest in going into the box. I, as a person, love darker reads and especially horror-inspired stuff, which the box definitely seems to be more in the realm of like spooky, creepy, horror, dark, murder, true crime, that kind of vibe. So, fabulous. These Violent Delights, which, like Shakespeare, these violent delights have violent ends. I wonder if it's an intentional reference. Ugh, when you remember shit from freshman year of high school because you were forced to do projects about it. I had to quote These Violent Delights just like casually in conversation somehow as like an assignment. And like, how the fuck do you slip that into conversation casually? But anyways, the book synopsis. When Paul enters university in early 1970s Pittsburgh, it's with the hope of moving past the recent death of his father. Sensitive, insecure, and incomprehensible to his grieving family, Paul feels isolated and alone. When he meets the worldly Julian in his freshman ethics class, Paul is immediately drawn to his classmate's effortless charm. Paul sees Julian as his sole intellectual equal, an ally against the conventional world he finds so suffocating. Paul will stop at nothing to prove himself worthy of their friendship, but with Julian, life is more invigorating than Paul could have ever imagined. But as charismatic as he can choose to be, Julian is also volatile and capriciously cruel, and Paul becomes increasingly afraid that he can never live up to what Julian expects of him. As their friendship spirals into an all-consuming intimacy, they each learn the lengths to which the other will go in order to stay together, their obsession ultimately hurtling them toward an act of irrevocable violence. Unfolding with propulsive ferocity, These Violent Delights is an exquisitely plotted excavation of the depths of human desire and the darkness it can bring forth in us. Okay, color me intrigued. First of all, two guys, it looks like there's a little bit of romance happening, so we are getting our queer book. And it's set in the 1970s, which ironically adds to like the vintage vibes that I was talking about with the edges. I'm really curious to see where this one goes. And, like, I can assume that the irrevocable act of violence is going to be murder. Like, they're going to murder somebody. But I'm wondering if they're going to murder other people, if they're going to murder each other, if it's going to, you know, how it's going to go. We definitely have a lot of book to get through to find out. But color me intrigued. We have the Bookmark. He couldn't stand to look at the truth even now. All they had ever been, was a pair of sunflowers who each believed the other was the sun. And this is a quote from the book itself. Generally, the bookmarks seem to have like a quote from a famous like writer or something like that. And then the other side has a direct quote from the actual book that you get in your box. So this side is a quote from William Shakespeare, specifically from Romeo and Juliet. It says, "These violent delights have violent ends, and in their triumph die like fire and powder, which as they kiss consume. The sweetest honey is loathsome in his own deliciousness, and in it the taste confounds the appetite." So, I was so spot on with the Romeo and Juliet reference. I love this for me, mostly because I have a huge ego. And then we have these little pencils that says, "We're the same kind of crazy," set of 7 sharpened pencils. Oh, I like that they're pre-sharpened. I feel like that never happens. So we have these cute little colored pencils that all look like they have different quotes on them. So we have, "We're the same kind of crazy," "Friends are therapists you can drink with," "That's a horrible idea, what time," "Friends don't let friends do stupid stuff alone," "You had me at we'll make it look like an accident," "I'd take a Nerf bullet for you," "We're more than friends, we're a really small gang." So those are kind of fun, you know, for the ride or die kind of vibe. But otherwise, we have a variety of different mystery items to open. Looks like we have 4 items this month to open specifically, 2 of which are in boxes, which, like, if y'all saw my last unboxing, you know that I am a mischievous little shit and likes to try and, like, feel and guess what are in the items. So this makes it a little bit harder to do that. I'm already hooked on this book. Let me tell ya. Already intrigued. We got this introduction with this character Charlie. Charlie gets stuck in the rain. His car is not working. So these 2 like teen boys drive up and they're like, "Hey, you know, like, can we give you a ride?" And then they like are in the car and they're all getting cozy and warm and they like share a thermos of food with him. And he was drugged. And so now we have to find out what's going to happen. And I'm frustrated because I don't think we're going to find out what's going to happen for quite a long time because it was the prologue, so it like got you hooked. And now we're going to have to backtrack and figure out who the fuck these teen kids are, which is Julian and Paul, which are supposed to be the main characters of the book. So the fact that they start us off with Charlie and like get us invested and then they're like, haha, fuck you. Enter gift number 1. We have this box right here. I have absolutely no guesses as to what it's supposed to be because on the page that has the sticky note on it, there aren't any physical items mentioned whatsoever. So it looks like we have these 2 little holiday themed drinks. And then we also get a little note with it that says, "No, this isn't chicken and rice soup, it's coffee. Don't worry, you can totally trust what we offer you to drink. Enjoy." The other boy reaches across Charlie's knees and takes a thermos from the glove box. The contents smell of hot broth and rosemary, something Charlie's grandmother might have made when he was sick as a child. "Want some?" the boy asks. "It's chicken and rice." "Nice of you," Charlie agrees. He holds the metal thermos mug steady while the boy carefully fills it. The first mouthful burns Charlie's tongue, but it shocks the cold from his bones, and it tastes all right. At first, there's the barest tang of soap, as if the mug wasn't rinsed properly, but after a moment, he can't even taste it. So I actually tried the gingerbread spice coffee. The smell was a bit interesting. You could definitely tell that it was a flavored coffee of some sort. The taste of it black was quite gross, if I'm being honest, but I really prefer for my coffee to taste like not coffee. So once I added some creamer and sugar, it was actually pretty decent. You can definitely taste the cookie undertones. Like, it sort of tasted like when you dip a scone or like a breakfast cookie into coffee or tea and then take a bite of it. That's pretty much how it tasted, but just as the drink. So it was quite an interesting sensation, actually. But it definitely added to like the perfect cozy winter vibes of reading that I had going on for the day. If I'm being honest, I did actually peek at this one off camera simply because when I came to the sticky note to open it, I was reading and it was like 2 a.m., but I was desperately curious. So I'm like, all right, I'll take a peek and then we'll do the unboxing later. It's fine. We do have this lovely little sweater. It's not a sweater, it's a scarf. One of the boys within the book was wearing a scarf. And it's literally like so exact to the book. It was described as being like a buttery caramel kind of color. And it was also described as being like the softest thing that one of the boys had ever felt. And like genuinely, I'm so excited about how soft it is because it is so soft and it surprisingly feels like decent quality. I mean, if a little basic, it is kind of just like a plain little scarf with some tassel bits on the end, but like it is genuinely so soft. And it even has this little tag on it. So it's 20% cashmere and 80% viscose. Isn't cashmere like a bougie fabric? Julian's hands were bare despite the chill, but he was wearing a new scarf, courtesy of a care package from his mother. Caramel colored, some kind of exotic wool, softer than anything Paul had ever touched. Alright, so it has come time to open gift 3. If my guess is correct, I think it's going to be a bracelet. So I was right in the fact that we were getting a bracelet. Evidently, we have 2 bracelets that are the same identical kind. And it doesn't look like they have anchors on them at all, but it's still like a fun little leather bracelet. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it does look like there is a slight color difference. I think this one's more brown, whereas this one's more black. This one would be more accurate to what was described in the book. It took me a second to try and figure out how to open it because I'm over here like, okay, that looks like the clasp, but like whatever. It slides open and they fit into each other like a zipper almost, kind of. But we have obviously the design. Let me see if I can get it on by myself. Haha! I can indeed. So we do have this as the brown bracelet. I kind of like how substantial that is. So we have the black one as well. Oh, you can tell a little bit better out of the packaging the difference in the color. I kind of really like both of them. Like, I'm not sure why they chose to include 2 different colorways, but the brown is definitely the one that's like more online with the book itself, but the black one's just like a fun little alternative bit to add to that as well. The gesture was another uncanny likeness to Julian, and Paul quickly focused his gaze on Henry's wrist to avoid dwelling on it. He'd never known before that it was all right, in some circles, for a man to wear any kind of bracelet. It was reasonably masculine, a loop of plated leather fastened with a brass anchor, but it was still strange enough that it helped Paul forget all the ways Henry was familiar. Alright, so it is time to open our 4th and final gift of the box, and I'm genuinely so excited because this has been the one that I've been the most curious about. If my guess is correct, I think it's going to be some incense and an incense burner, but it's not necessarily a direct reference to what happened in the book. Within the book, like, Paul joined his sister downstairs in the basement where she had been smoking weed and had some sandalwood candles burning to kind of like muffle the smell. And they also mentioned there being like an ashtray. Haha, I was right. But we also have a letter. Cute. It's a sandalwood incense kit. Pure naturally scented sandalwood incense sticks, sandalwood stick incense wood holder ash catcher. And then it gives you instructions on how to use your kit, how to like properly and safely burn incense, all that jazz. We have this nice little incense burner that looks like it might be kind of fancy. Hang on, let me open this. Oh, that is fancy. Okay, so the edge, how an incense burner works is like you have sticks of incense, which we also have a whole little tube of. You have the incense burner, and generally there's like a hole or something on one of the sides, so you stick the stick of incense in, the incense kind of sticks out, and then as it burns, the ash falls onto your tray so it doesn't damage whatever surface that it's on. But this piece, instead of just having like a hole built in, it has a little movable piece, so you can like pick whatever angle that you want your incense to go to, and then you can just stick it up, and then you can put it back down if you want it, you know, to be more flat for storage or just anything. I've never seen an incense holder like that. That is so cool, genuinely. Like, I really like that, actually. That's very, very cool. Paul paused midway down the staircase. A pungent sandalwood smell rose from below, from the candles Audrey liked to burn to cover up the smell of grass. He rolled his eyes and continued downward. With all of those items unboxed, we have concluded this month's Down the Rabbit Hole book box. And I have to say, I am so genuinely excited about all of the items that we got and the book itself. Like, I haven't finished it quite yet, but I am a little over 300 out of the 400 and something pages through it, and I am so invested. It is like such an enthralling read. I have had trouble putting it down because it is so fascinating, and we've also reached a point where it is like in the thick of things, so like I feel like the conclusion's gonna kind of start wrapping up pretty quickly here, and I am, oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. I don't want to like reveal too much about it because I am going to be doing an entirely separate review on the book itself, but like, good fucking book choice for the month. Again, I do just continue to be blown away by the products that this book box tends to feature, and I'm very, very curious to see what they do with their future boxes. I will have to say, I still have like a decent chunk of the book left to go, but I don't necessarily see the connection to this month's theme of being gods and monsters, other than like I could see the argument that like the two characters are kind of playing God and that they are kind of monsters for doing so, if we want to read into it a little bit. And, you know, especially like with their kind of God complex, taking things into their own hands with justice, or their own form of justice at least, and them seeing other people as being monsters. I could also see that argument as well. But if I'm being honest, it does feel like a little bit of a stretch. But otherwise, I am so incredibly stoked. This book too, oh my god. Like, I haven't even finished it and I already want to reread it. Like, it is just that interesting, and it's so eloquently written. Again, don't want to get too far into it because I am going to be doing an entire review on my channel, but so good. Yeah, I am so incredibly stoked about this box. I am so incredibly grateful that Down the Rabbit Hole was kind enough to gift it to me. Like I said before, you can get 10% off your own purchase from the company by using the code MYFIRSTBOX10 at checkout. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I had a blast hanging out with y'all. Peace.